Welcome to today's tutorial. We're going to be learning about off-camera flash today, some of the accessories and some of the camera settings. Today I am joined by Louise. Welcome. Louise is a very accomplished photographer, but what is your knowledge like on off-camera flash? 1 to 10.
Okay, pretty poor. So if I could go minus, I'd go into the minuses, I'm afraid.
And you're not being generous on yourself?
Really not.
Right, okay, so you know nothing about flash other than it's a bright light that you use for photography sometimes.
That's it.
So the plan is I'm going to be taking Louise on the same journey as you at the same time. So if you're completely new to photography, especially off-camera flash or on-camera flash, then this is the video for you. I'm going to be covering a lot of content in this video. So what I'll do is I'll put a list of all the topics that I'm going to cover here, and then I'll put a timestamp as well, so that if you want to go forward to that particular part of the video, you can skip ahead. As well as being an accomplished landscape photographer, Louise is now the proud owner of a YouTube channel where she shares her photographic travels and experiences. Check out her channel at Louise Welcome Photography. I've been asked to photograph weddings, being the second shooter, and because I am a capable photographer, lots of people ask me if I can take portraits of them. And the anecdote in the industry is that if you only use natural light and you don't know how to use a flash, then you're a part-time photographer. First of all, let's get familiar with the functions of a typical flash. Okay, so do you know what the difference between buying an authentic Canon flash is versus a cheap Yongnuo flash?
No.
So you'll pay probably 2 or 3 times the amount for this. And the reason being is that this flash has got ETTL, which stands for evaluative through the lens, which means that when I attach this to the camera's metering system will tell the flash how powerful it should be.
Okay.
If you stick that on it, although it will fit, this is just a dumb flash that will go off. Whatever setting you leave it on, it will just blast some light. That's what you're getting for your money here.
Okay.
Although I've got mirrorless cameras, I'm using a Canon DSLR today because it doesn't really make any difference when you're using flash. A mirrorless camera will not show you what the final image will look like until the flash goes off. So there's no real benefit, but you've got a mirrorless Canon, haven't you? Could you get your mirrorless Canon for me, please? And we're going to put this flash on it and I'll show you some of the settings on this. If you were to be indoors, your camera would tell your flash how powerful to be.
Okay, okay.
And then you can compensate for that. So let's just say, just like taking a regular photograph, if you photograph a white wall, your camera will try and make it grey.
Yep.
So you can override that. It's still automatic, but it's going to be 1 stop over automatic.
Okay.
However, my preference is not to let any of these devices decide anything for me.
Okay.
I'm all in favour of completely manual process.
Okay.
Understanding your equipment and then figuring out what it's doing and then overriding it if you have to.
That makes sense.
And that is quite simply the sound of the flash moving. What that is doing is, you might just think that this is a dumb flash, but essentially when you use a longer lens, it's got a range of 24 to 105. So it's creating a broader range of light, which makes sense. If you're taking a wide shot, you want the light to be getting out as much as possible. When you zoom in to 105, it kind of creates a cone. Like that, so the light is more concentrated. It's got an in-flash zoom capability. So let's talk about the next feature.
Okay.
If you're photographing a wedding or portraits in low light, the front of the flash has got an infrared beam. This is an infrared focusing beam. So even you can go into the menu and tell the flash not to go off, but you're still benefiting from the infrared beam. You can photograph a pitch black room, it will send out the infrared beam, find your subject, nail your focus in the dark because it's using infrared. So if you're at a wedding or you're shooting some portraits, and if it's indoors, then that's kind of an easy task because you know how a camera works. You can probably set your shutter speed to something double or slightly longer than the focal length of your lens, and then you can just add flash. Now these flashes turn full 180 degrees, and the point of that is because if you point a flash straight at somebody's face, it's not a great look. They get blinded, nobody thanks you for it. So these are really flexible. You can tilt them up, angle them to the side, and the reason you might want to be doing that is if you're in an interior space, then you could bounce the light off a wall. So all of a sudden the light source, which is very small and harsh, is now actually the size of the wall, so that's why you might bounce it off a wall. But you need to be careful that you're not pointing at, say, a blue wall or a red wall, because you're going to get blue and red light back.
Okay.
So these are the things to look out for.
All right, thank you. Point taken.
This is where the fun starts.
When you say fun?
Because you're going to get involved now.
Your version of fun.
Okay, I'm going to give you a brief.
Yes.
I am a friend of yours, and I have heard that you're pretty good at photography. I'd like you to take some portraits of me with this particular background. Let's just say this is their wedding day or their honeymoon. Or
Very lucky to have this location. Wow.
Let's just pretend that this is a lovely Miami beach behind us.
Yep.
But they said this particular location, and I want it at sunset. So
Right.
you've got a backlit subject.
Okay.
And I've got a few other tricky criteria as well.
Excellent.
I want the background to be blurred, no matter how much I love this location.
Right.
I want some pictures of me with this location, but I want the background to be a little bit blurred. And obviously I don't want to be a silhouette. I want you to know that it's me.
Excellent.
So
Thank you for that brief.
That's the task, which sounds reasonable.
Yes.
Try it without a flash, first of all, if you want.
Just stood there like an idiot then.
There you go, right.
Right, excellent.
First of all, see if you can take a photograph of me. I want the background correctly exposed and me correctly exposed. There's no Lightroom, you're not allowed to edit this. The sun's coming out, which is even better.
Oh,
more of a
good.
challenge.
Excellent.
Let's just pretend we're on a photo shoot right now.
Yeah, hang
Come on,
on a
Louise,
sec.
my parking's going to run out. We've got to
Good
get on
for
with
your
this.
parking, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Just shush, be kind. Okay, that's too much. The first one. Okay, I think I've done it.
Is that overexposed? Have you got your zebras on? Okay, well, I wanted a blue sky. What about the sunset that's happening behind
me? Okay, in which case, I've exposed right for your face, but for the sky, I need to go darker, so...
So you can see Miami now.
Yeah, I think you should have a cocktail shaker in your hand or something like that. Show off.
This is realistic, isn't it? If there's a beautiful sunset happening behind your subject,
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
Front light it.
You're going to reach for the flash.
My subject is blinded.
But right now, that's not an option for you because
No.
you're not comfortable using a flash.
No, so I'd have to bracket it or something.
You could do an HDR, but let's just say I'm fidgety.
You are fidgety. Let's not say you are.
I am very fidgety.
Yes, I know. Okay, lovely.
And so this is on ETTL, so your camera's going to make all the decisions.
Did anything happen there? Oh my good gracious.
The flash went off. What happened?
You kind of went green actually. Let me just have a look at the back.
What are your settings?
I'm on f4 1/200th. It looks fine when you go through here.
Does it say that it's correctly exposed?
Oh no, let me go through what it says is correctly exposed here. I can't get it down.
You're not doing anything wrong.
Okay.
Your camera will not let you go faster than 1/200th of a second.
Oh, well that's
Welcome
useful.
to the world of flash photography.
Okay.
That's called your flash sync speed. You will notice that as soon as you mount a flash on top of your camera, it will no longer let you select a shutter speed faster than your flash sync speed, no matter how hard or fast you scroll the dials. Your flash sync speed is typically around 1/200th of a second, and your camera is limiting the shutter speed to avoid you running into the problem. By using a flash trigger, you can fool the camera into thinking that there is no flash on top of your camera, and you can actually see what happens at faster shutter speeds. Essentially, the camera's shutter ends up in the photograph, creating a horizontal black bar across your image. You don't have to worry too much about what's happening, only that this applies to all cameras with the exception of a rare few that have a leaf shutter, and you know how to deal with it. There are a few solutions to this. If you have high-speed sync on your flash, this will allow you to shoot at fast shutter speeds whilst using flash. Although not visible to the human eye, this puts your flash into a strobe mode, and this will light the scene multiple times to avoid those dark black bars that you would get otherwise. The downside to this is that it consumes a lot more battery, and because it's sending out multiple flashes, it has a reduced power output. But this is an easy solution to the issue of flash sync speed. The other thing is, you probably never even thought about this. If you were back at the wedding, all the party shenanigans have gone on and they're on the dance floor. So you've got very limited light. And even if you were shooting at f1.2, your ISO is probably going to start to bump up a bit.
Okay.
And there's very little chance you're probably going to get a sharp image of somebody dancing really, really quickly.
That is true.
So if you ever go to a wedding, you'll see somebody and they'll be very much reliant upon their flash. You probably didn't even know, but the flash doesn't have to go off at the beginning of your photograph. If you did a 1 second exposure, you could have the flash go off at the beginning and then do a 1 second exposure, or you could do a 1 second exposure and the flash goes off at the end.
Right.
The benefit is, if it goes off at the beginning, your subject is perfectly in focus and clear, and then they'll have like a ghosty moving image around them. Whereas if you have the long exposure of them and then the flash goes off at the end, it will kind of like be a nice movement towards them.
Okay. all right.
So that's called rear curtain flash.
Thank you.
So that's built into this as
I quite
well.
like the concept of rear curtain flash, if I'm honest.
Yeah. If you're a competent photographer, then you'll know the exposure triangle like the back of your hand. At our disposal, we have aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. However, with flash photography, the shutter speed is actually capped at 1/200th of a second, and you'll notice that shutter speed no longer changes the exposure of your image. If you want to shoot in bright conditions at larger apertures, but maintain a shutter speed of less than 1/200th of a second, then you can of course use ND filters to control your shutter speed. The exposure triangle actually becomes ISO, aperture, and now the flash power output. You can see now why many photographers avoid using flash, as what you thought you knew about controlling exposure is very different when using flash. The best way of approaching off-camera flash when shooting outdoors is to first expose for your background without your subject in the frame. Then underexpose the background for a bit of drama and to help your subject pop in the image. Then introduce your subject and vary the power of your flash until your subject is well lit. If your flash is not bright enough even at full power, then you'll need to change location or wait for the ambient light levels to drop. Using off-camera flash indoors or in a low light situation, such as a woodland, becomes a much easier task, as you can shoot with large apertures and even a regular flash will have enough power to light up your subject. If you're curious, the duration of how long the light lasts for will depend upon the power that you set your flash to. At full power, my flash illuminates the scene for 1/250th of a second. At 1/8 of the power, a duration of 1/4000th of a second, and at its lowest power, it's got a duration of 1/20,000th of a second. You can see now why using flash is described as freezing motion. It's important to understand that when you increase the power of a flash, it's not getting brighter, the duration is simply getting longer. If you're intending on capturing fast moving subjects, such as a water splashing or even a bullet, then you'll want to use your flash at its lowest power. Studio lights will have more power and are therefore less helpful for fast moving subjects, as they've got a longer duration. Right, so the next question would be, if this was Miami sunset, the colour temperature coming up for flash is?
Warmer Kelvins. That doesn't make sense physics-wise.
Your physics teacher would be so disappointed.
Yep, he might divorce me.
It's quite
cold.
It's quite cold.
I knew it was cold. I don't know why he's made me say warm.
A flash is daylight balanced.
Okay.
So it is calibrated to the middle of the day.
Okay.
So it's almost blue light coming out of it. So if you're photographing a couple or something at sunset, you don't want to be blasting them with blue light.
No, you don't.
So what do you think is the solution?
I don't know, Ben. What do you think is the solution?
Don't say, oh, a dramatic suntan or something.
Warming it up a little bit. Putting a little colour gel on it or something.
Colour gel. That's it.
Did I get that
done.
right?
You did.
Boom!
So you're right, yeah. You put gels on, so you just get this Velcro strap wrapped around your flash. And then if you ever hear anybody saying CTO, that's colour temperature orange.
Oh, okay.
So just like ND filters, you get strengths. So you can have quarters, 1/8, 3/4, and then the higher the number, the thicker it is. And it's as simple as that.
Oh,
really? So what you would do, because I thought you were going to say change your white balance. I thought you would fall for that.
Didn't know, did I?
No. But now that I've said it, did you think?
Might have done. Might have thought of it.
If you change your white balance to warm, then the sunset would get even more outrageous.
Oh, of course it would, yes.
And then, so your subject will be warm and then there'll be apocalypse happening behind you. So what you need to do is balance the light that you're adding with the light. Now that you're familiar with how a flash works on your camera, we need to get the flash off the camera so that we can start to get creative. The cheapest way of doing this is with some basic triggers, such as these by Yongnuo, which when fitted to the camera's hot shoe just tells the flash when to fire. You set your flash to manual and you dial the power up and down until you have the correct exposure. A more advanced version of this has a screen on the transmitter which will allow you to change the flash output from your camera rather than on the flash itself. This is helpful if you don't have an assistant and your flash is away from you on a light stand. This particular model will also allow for multiple flash setups, although an alternative to this is just to set the additional flashes to a slave mode, which will fire whenever the master flash goes off. More expensive triggers will simply be more reliable, will have better build quality and more features, but these are cost effective and have served me well. you intend on competing with the power of the sun, then you're going to need something a little bit more powerful than a flash. I chose to get a 600 watt Godox studio light, which is powerful enough to include the sun in the frame whilst correctly exposing my subject. So this is my studio light that I use, and the majority of the weight in here is actually the battery, because sometimes, well, like now, there's no power supply, and then sometimes when I photograph interiors, the buildings are not yet finished, so there's no electricity. So this is a benefit for that as well, having a separate battery source. Let me put things into perspective, right? Batteries from this are 4 AA's.
That's a little bit heavy.
So let me set this up with a softbox, and then we'll show you what the results look like from that. So far we've been concentrating on the technical aspects of lighting, but the quality of light is going to depend upon how you diffuse and shape the light. Generally speaking, the larger the light source, the softer and more flattering the light will be on your subject. I use a very large softbox to light interiors, as my ambition is to replicate soft window light, so I set up this unwieldy softbox every time on location. Since this softbox is almost the same height as me, Louise was able to take a full-length shot of me to meet the original brief of having that amazing Miami sunset, with me correctly exposed in the foreground. If you're looking for a more manageable and efficient softbox, then you will love this Smallrig Parabolic softbox. Straight out the box, it comes assembled. All of the rods remain fixed to the outer shell, but you do not have to build it every time. I leave it assembled and I pack it into the carry case with both diffusers and grid attached. When you first get the softbox, you can either clip each rod into place one at a time, or you can push your palms down on the inside to open up the large sections of the softbox all at once. To collapse the softbox, you simply lift each rod and push down on the metal clip with your thumb. The softbox comes with a Bowens mount attachment, the diffusers, grid and carry case. Since this softbox is considerably smaller, the light will start to fall off on a full length shot, so it's probably better suited to a head and shoulders photograph.
Is this faster to put up? It looks like it's a pop-up tense, 2 seconds and it's up.
I was off camera when you asked me the most important question.
Okay. Is it faster to put up? He's on camera. Seriously, is it faster to put up?
All right, so you've got a studio light at home for when you're filming your YouTube
yes,
videos.
That's not fast to put up.
And although that's a foldable one, you go through the same process of putting the diffusers in, and then you put the Velcro grid on, and then by the time you've done that, you think, I'm not dismantling this every single time. So you just leave it up. Okay, so I was in search of a softbox which was a manageable size, same sort of size, but I could assemble and collapse all together. So this is just a Velcro strap that's wrapping around it, and then as I open it up, you'll see you just pop them out like so.
Oh, okay, that's a bit easier. Okay, I've got a small amount of jealousy at this now. It's a lot smaller than our one as well, so that's...
But this is, I picked out this size. This is the smallest one.
Okay.
But that's assembled now. That's got 2 diffusion layers in it.
Right.
And it's got the grid already attached. Roughly how long did it take me to put up the big softbox?
About 4-ish minutes.
4-ish minutes, okay? This is probably 1 minute.
Yeah.
And if you want to dismantle it, you just literally push these metal bits and like dismantle it in sections.
Oh, that's very cool.
Literally just flick those like that.
I've got a birthday coming up.
So there's no need for a time lapse to collapse this or anything.
That's amazing.
And my OCD, so essentially you've got the grid on the front. I wouldn't want that at a slight angle. So on the back you've got that. So once it's actually fixed to your light, you can turn it around, have everything perfectly square. The light levels have gone down now, and we are able to shoot at 1/200th of a second, no problem at all. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you are taking a photograph of the sky and the background and me and the correct exposure.
You are, you really are. These are posher than my ones, these DJI ones.
Yeah, it's a new purchase, don't tell my wife.
Okay, don't tell his wife.
Although constant lights can be used for shooting portraits, they are more often used for shooting video because they can't compete with the external daylight levels. I've made several videos on portable lighting solutions, but never before have I been able to take my studio light out on location with me. Until now. The Sirui C60R is mains powered as well as accepting NPF batteries, which means that you can now have a studio quality light wherever you go. Not only is it bi-colour, which will allow you to match the colour temperature of your scene, which ranges from 2800 Kelvin to 6500 Kelvin, but the C60R is a fully RGB light, which means that you can pick any colour you like and it can match it. You have control over the power to 1% increments, and the light can be controlled via the app. The C60R comes with a carry case, newly designed handle, battery adapter, mains adapter, and it's also Bowen's mount, making it the perfect companion for the Smallrig Parabolic Softbox. Put that on here like so. So let's just say we hadn't missed the sunset and you wanted to make a video, and once again you wanted the sunset in the background, then you introduce constant lighting. And obviously we're out in a field right now. Most of the studio lights out there are mains powered, but this takes batteries. What does it say on the back? It will give a number, it will say something like 2800.
Bang on, 2800.
That's a good guess. Right, so that is 2800 Kelvin. Do you want to turn the left dial clockwise? And then it's going to make the light much, much colder. Probably go to 6000 or something. So within one studio light, you don't need gels anymore, do you? Because you've got bi-colour. It's got another trick up its sleeve as well. I need you to come into the shop for this.
Oh dear. Oh my.
What's your favourite colour?
Plum.
It does look like you're wearing a full-on plum outfit now. But I can change the colour to suit.
Oh, that's something else.
But it gives you the freedom and flexibility. If you were doing something a bit quirky and you wanted plum light, there it is. Bam. And we're in the middle of a field. We've got a studio light here.
More importantly, we've got to carry it back to the car.
Yeah, we have. Shall we go?
Let's go.
Well, I think I'm going to wrap up this video here. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you've learned something. If you've got any questions, then let me know in the comments down below. I'll see you in the next video.